you have to focus on one thing and only one thing for at least 6 months in order to be good at this. What Mark Price is saying this, you have to, if you choose your career, right, and you try to excel it, don't try to scatter all over the place. A lot of people jumping skills from skills. They want to learn iOS, they want to learn Android, web development at the same time. They want to, if you're in testing industry, you want to learn all of the testing like Selenium WebDriver, Cypress, XUA test, Espresso, and the backend automation. So what he says that you will never be successful if you follow this trade. You have to focus on one thing and become really good at this. Especially right now, there's going to be a lot of professionals at something, right? So you want to position yourself as a super professional at something, right? So you want to make sure you are, develop the skill you already have and excel it instead of learn something completely new, and it will be pretty much total failure. And you not only have to learn how to stick with that for at least 6 months to a year before you shift to another thing. So you have to be so good at this, right? Whenever you present yourself, that people that interview, they feel that you are a pro at this particular thing. You must spend every day 1 hour, at least 1 hour every day, 5 days a week. Obviously, you need to give your brain a break to solve these algorithms before you get a job. Until you actually get employed, my recommendation, just keep doing this, right? Otherwise, because companies right now have ability to hire best of the best, because the market is flooded with the professionals right now. Before they used to hunt people, right? Now they don't have to do that. Now all these people available, and you have to compete with them. So you want to make sure you prepare and brush up your coding interview skills as the best you can. While you solve them, time yourself. Give yourself first 30 minutes, right? If you cannot make it in 30 minutes, try to solve it, then time for 30 minutes, try to solve within 30 minutes frame, then, shut it down to 20, 15, fast you can solve them, because usually the phone screens are limited on time. They give you like, somewhat like 30 or maybe sometimes 10, 15 minutes for the quick problems. Just like user experience or any web designers come to the interview with a portfolio of their websites or application they've been developing in the previous projects, or their like homework projects that they can present of their skills. Nowadays, again, in such a competitive market, you want to come to the interview not empty-handed. If you're invited to in-person, even if it's a Zoom interview, in-person interview, you want to show that you not just worked on something at your job, but you build an application to develop your skills. What it means, like for instance, when we actually have XUA test videos on our YouTube channel, we have the underlying app. Nothing stops you to take this app. It's open, so it's right now open to the public, right? As you can see on the screen, and can continue writing tests on your own to develop the skill that you can present. You can present GitHub, you can present tests and solutions, you can present even this test running in CI by bringing your Jenkins instance, or even the free version of Circle CI. So you can show a bundle, right? Here's my application, here's my test, here's the running in CI. It will definitely impress the people who are going to interview, because you show them that you are very active. Besides doing your job, you can show the industry problems and their solutions. Say, hey, by the way, there is a problem right now to automating Siri. And by the way, Xcode, latest Xcode released the XUA test library, which have APIs, which you can automate the Siri. They're like, oh, impressive. Can you talk more about this or elaborate on this? And you can present this as the demo. Alternatively, there is like YouTube channel with Coding with Mitch. He has, hundreds of very useful videos where he actually for free shares on his website an open source application, which for Android, for iOS, you can build your portfolio out of his resources. If you are in development, he has advanced courses on development on Android and iOS. If you're on testing, He has an amazing testing course for the espresso architecture. This is amazing free resource on YouTube, and I always like alternative resources. You can find that for building portfolio. When you come to the interview and show something, trust me, people will be impressed. You will right away jump on top of the stack. If they say, no, we don't want to see your app, you're going to hear this, which is fine. But at least if you try, say, hey, by the way, I'm working on open source application and I can demo you some cool stuff. Do you have 5 minutes? And they're going to say yes or no. And if they say yes, you can present it. Again, if you go in person interview, you can bring your laptop, ask to connect to the Wi-Fi and make a presentation. If not, you can do it over the Zoom. It's even easier nowadays. And be prepared when you present your baby, right? Your application. Make sure you're ready for this. You're ready to answer all the questions like, what is the architecture? You can walk through the code base. Be prepared to answer any question. The biggest failure in interview, when I interview people personally, right? I ask them, do you know what's going on in the test automation industry? And people say usually yes. Okay, so the next following question for me is, do you listen to any podcasts? Do you watch any YouTube videos, or do you follow any evangelist in the industry? And people say yes, and I say, can you name a few? People get stumble. I don't know. To know your evangelist in the industry, and especially when you follow them, you can have a very interesting conversation during an interview. You can spark an interest in your interviewer, and he or she will see that you are actually know what's going on right now, what's in trend, right? And then, for instance, speaking on Angie Jones and all the people you mentioned, not many people know there's a test automation university sponsored by Applet Tools, which is probably right now the leader in the UI automation. We're talking the UI validation using the AI. And they have dozens of courses completely free. And there's a lot of great videos on SauceCon that you can watch right now, a recording of. Great, amazing resource for the latest trends in the quality industry. Again, I'm basically trying to show you that if you would like to dive into whatever you are doing, web automation or iOS, Android, backend, AI, anything, machine learning, big data, whatever, it's all available. There's nowadays so many resources that you can follow, which is, can help you to brush up your skills and be up to date. When you are a knowledgeable person about the industry and you come to interview and they ask you, what's going on right now, guys, in this? And you can say, hey, by the way, I was attending the latest online conference on SauceCon and heard a great speech from Parasoft about how you can leverage Selenium and AI. I was like, wow, artificial intelligence is a very hot topic right now. What was so interesting about the presentation? I say, hey, by the way, Chris Colosimo was actually presenting a great tool, right, called Selenic, which was basically solving the industry problems such as flaky test and how to completely avoid them in the real time. And they have self-healing feature, which is actually fixed test on the fly, and you don't have to investigate why they were failing. You're like, oh my God, this is something new. It shows that you are knowledgeable about what's going on in the industry, right? And right away, you're gonna get right on top during the conversation. Either it's conversation with the interviewer as a manager or interviewer as a regular engineer, doesn't matter. You're gonna spark an interest that you are going beyond just regular boundaries of your job responsibilities. Joe Colantonio is actually right now full-time dedicated to the Test Guild. He makes online conferences, free weekly podcasts. He has automation podcasts, performance, security, whatever you want. He actually has a lot of free resources. I am hiring on a regular basis, DevOps, IT ops, engineers, QA. I mean, I'm engineering manager, so I actually go through hundreds of resumes, and 99% of resumes that they see, they're terrible. They're usually done like fast-handed, like somebody had 5 minutes, brush up something, and this is a total failure. And number one is he talks about application, right? It's that a lot of people, when they try to apply, they just throw a resume out there and then hope people are going to find them. And what he suggests, and I suggest to everyone, make sure to apply directly. If you go on the Glassdoor website, right, you will see hundreds of jobs postings, current job posting, and you can go to the site of the company, right? If it's Google, it's going to be Google site for the employment. It doesn't matter. If it's Fitbit, it's Fitbit site. You can go there, and every website of a reputable company or even a small startup have the employment link. You go there and you can find jobs that are currently available. My recommendation, do not go to recruiters, apply directly. Go through internal recruiters, go through internal process. It's much, I would say, less bureaucratic. It's much faster to get a real, at least the screening, right? Very, very important. So you want to apply online, and you have to repeat it until success. A lot of people send the resume and apply for the job, and they wait, and there's nothing, and they just give up. And what he says, and I agree with him, you want to apply again. I mean, you want to make sure that people hear from you, because usually internal recruiters are extremely busy. They scan hundreds of resumes, and they just by accident can miss you, right? So don't be hesitant to apply once again. Very important. It has a lot of great information. If you read through this post, like learning how to write a killer resume by example, he talks about the important, he makes emphasis on different parts of resume, and he puts them in different section, right? Which font to use, right? Where to put what. But the most important thing, obviously, the juice of the resume is what you have done in the past in your previous employment, right? In your previous jobs. And a lot of people, when I said the 99% of resumes that I get are very poor, is because usually this part that you see on the screen right now, right, where I do mouse over, this part is very vague, very general. People are writing like, for instance, if the person worked as the quality engineer, as a tester, they write like, okay, I've been writing test cases, running regression, using the Selenium WebDriver for automation, use XUI test for automating iOS test. This is nothing. This information tells me nothing about you, right? And he derived the formula, which I agree 150% with. In his employment, firmware engineer intern, he said, improve device better lifespan by 8% by integrating a fuel gauge sensor and establishing a battery saving state. If you read this statement, it actually follows the formula that he actually breaks down right here. It is accomplishment, right, as measured by Y by doing Z, right? So basically, the objective of this formula that you want to make sure that improved devices better lifespan is an accomplishment. You have to actually state what you've delivered, a value to the company, measured result by 8%, by doing what exactly action you've done to achieve that result, measurable result, integrating a fuel, I'm going to highlight right here, gauge sensor and establishing a battery saving line. That's the resume I want to see. There are hundreds, there's thousands of people who can do, whatever you know how to do. But only you delivered a value to the company which could be interested for me as a manager, because maybe I have the same objectives. Maybe I need to improve my better life, right, for my hardware that I try to deliver. Okay, very important information. He even shares the words, right? He gives a bank, like a word bank of excellent verbs you can and should use, right? As the synonyms for starting your statements, like improved, piloted, optimized, reduced, And he even gives you a phrase formula for different statements. This is so amazing article. Let me give you an example. Like for instance, people said that I worked as an Android automation engineer and I use the Appium, right, or Espresso. It doesn't matter, right? What they usually put in resume, I use Appium framework to automate regression testing for Android. It says nothing. For me, it basically says that, okay, fine, you've done something, but what that means, right? What kind of accomplishment, what kind of achievements have you done? But if you say something like architect Android functional test automation framework with Espresso library while using scalable architecture, screen object or robot pattern, such an architecture enabled the entire Android team to write scalable tests with minimum maintainable effort. So when you are actually phrasing your statements in something that actually can bring on the table, or improve test stability by stubbing backend responses with OKHTTP mock web server, isolated tests from the backend, full control of backend responses, ability easier to trigger the test. Or you can say that you improve the test stability by 50% or 30% and increase the speed by 20% if you want a measurable result. Next, you're most likely going to jump on a phone call or on a Zoom meeting with a hiring manager because you went through what we call filtering. They filter out all the people. They basically want to make sure you're smart or not. You showed your skills, you're smart, good. Now, manager wants to talk to you first before he is going to waste time of other engineers, right? He want to make sure that you are a team fit for his company, for his team. It could be an engineering manager, it could be director. In the smaller companies, it could be even VP or senior director. So what that means? That means you have to make sure you talk in the right terms. And what I mean, I've seen a lot of failures at that stage. And people think like, oh my God, why I failed? Am I like non-technical? No, you're technical. You just said something that actually broke, or changed the mindset of engineering manager or hiring manager about yourself and what it is. And let's talk about those things. So, number one, before you join on a call with engineering manager, read job description. Download the app, use the website, if possible. If you are going for the company doing business to business model, try to educate yourself about the company. Even if the company is not public facing, you still can dig the information about the product. At least you can have context for the conversation. If you do not have that context, guess what? If they ask you, hey, by the way, have you ever used our application? You say no. Like, interesting. So why I should hire you? So you want to make sure you study a company in and out before you go in for that phone call. Very, very important. And by the way, just mention something, right? That you are excited about this. So let's say, like, for instance, if we're going to talk about, I don't know, like Tinder, right? You could be married, right? You could have kids, but you said, I'm excited about product. I read an amazing article how to change the landscape of, of relationships with the millennials. Although I am like a different age right now, don't date anymore, but that's amazing concept that, I wish I could use when I was a younger age. You can say that. It will, definitely please the hiring manager that you're interested in about project. And you can say, for the matter of fact, I downloaded the app, I played with the application, and I was surprised about and start naming about features. Because when you talk about in details about application and make few points, it will please the hiring manager that you know the product, and you as an engineer look at this and maybe have even suggestions. Say, by the way, I think if we change this feature to to left or right, that's going to improve 50% of the user engagement. Boom. This is so important. When I've been on the phone call and asked, hey, by the way, have you ever used Tinder before? I say, no, I'm married. I was like, so what? I'm married too. I have a kid. I'm married too for 10 years. But doesn't mean that you don't have to use the product that you try to go for interview. And people say this, I don't want to talk to this person anymore. It means he's not interested. He finds excuses not to use the product. So why are you even applying, right? Another interesting question that people ask in that conversation is, do you have any questions about the company? And people say no. And this is it. If you say no, most likely you're not going to get a second chance. You want to come prepared. You want to ask them, by the way, what's the size of the team I'm going to work with? How many people, how many iOS, how many Android, how many backend engineers? What kind of team structure do you have? Is it the pod system for, or this is like you work in a Kanban, Agile, whatever. What is the system you're working with? Is application written natively, or it's a hybrid? What are you guys using for the backend if it's not the secret? I would like to learn. Is it the Google protocol buffers, or using the open socket? Doesn't matter. You start asking questions. Be prepared. Try to look at their engineering forums. Every company have blog posts nowadays. So they actually talk about their technology stack. Dive into the technology stack. What are you guys using for CI? If not, when you plan to use CI? What kind of test coverage do you have right now? What kind of test automation frameworks do you use right now? You want to bombardier. And then if you ask all this question, the engineering manager will have impression that you're extremely interested in this role. And if you're gonna do poorly, I mean, maybe not so poorly, but so at your interview, following interview with other engineers, he will already put you on top of the list in his mind. And even if you're gonna do, let's say, 4 interviews with other 4 engineers, and 2 of them would be like, I would say, okay, he, as an engineering manager, will weigh his decision. Remember, who is decision maker, right? Usually they have more voice. They're gonna listen to everybody's opinion. And if it's gonna be 50-50, his opinion will win. He's hiring manager, right? Or she. Okay, it's very, very important to be a humble interview and also interested in the conversation about the product. Okay, very important. Another biggest failure I've seen in the interview, when you come to the company doing certain role, for instance, they put in job description that they want you to write client-facing testing, like using, let's say, Espresso for Android. And then during the interview with a hiring manager, or even with the other engineer, you ask the question, what do you think if you will have to write backend testing? Or what do you think if you would have to do performance testing? And you're gonna say, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. I read your job description and I know Espresso. I don't know how to write backend testing, so my answer, no. Guess what? Done. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore. You cannot answer the question in a negative way, even if you don't know this. You can't. Nowadays, you cannot afford this. You have to even positively elaborate on that. Say, hey, John, I didn't, I mean, during the, when I was browsing through the job description, I didn't see this. However, I'm really interested in this. I know my career specifically was last 6 months focusing on Android automation with Espresso, and that's where I'm very proficient in. However, I'm super interested to go to backend. This is my, I would say, not my strongest side, but with my engineering skills, I'm engineer, right? And I'm senior engineer. I would like to brush up the skills, and I would be more than happy to help you guys at that matter. Guess what? You didn't say no. You didn't say that you know this, but you showed an interest to participate in that project. Guess what? There's a very high chance you're never gonna do this. But as the engineering managers, they use the tricks of hiring managers. They use the tricks to see how much you want to learn. Because if they hire mid-level or senior person, they kind of understand that you are there, you are the ceiling, right? You're on top of the industry. But they want to make sure you're humble, you're eager to learn, and you're hungry. Okay, that's why they ask this provocative question. It doesn't mean you will have to do this. They want to make sure you are ready to do this and you want to do this. And if you say no and show no interest into this, they're gonna cross your name right away. And again, I've been a hiring manager and I actually done consulting before. And I've seen the biggest failures when people said no to when I've been asked to do something else because they didn't feel comfortable about this. Very sad, but that was true. And people thought they did very good in the interview. They answered all the questions, they did all the assignments, and they failed the interview. And when I was asking the hiring manager why the person failed the interview, they said, because when we asked the person how to do this and that, the person said no. I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. And that's, again, I share with my previous experience, okay? And besides technical questions, guys, let's shift the gears towards soft questions, right? And there are also, for the reason, besides your technical abilities, you will have to spend at least 8 hours a day with the other people. And guess what? It's more time than you spend with your loved relatives, your kids, your partners, your wives, or husbands. What that means is that cultural fit is a big thing nowadays. Very big. Because if you're not culturally fit, team will be very uncomfortable to work with you, even if you're rock star in coding. So be prepared to talk about what we call soft skills, right? And people are going to ask you about very interesting questions, sometimes even psychological questions, such as what if you get conflict situation with your coworker? What are you going to do? What if you're going to get a negative feedback from your manager, which means like myself, right? I'm your manager, I'm interviewing right now. What are you going to do about this? And nowadays people ask all these questions, right? What if you have an assignment that you cannot fulfill on time, right? What are you going to do about this? How are you going to act? And nowadays, more and more people asking about these questions. They might even ask you, what's your hobby, right? What do you do after work? They want to make sure that you as the person, your personality fit into the team, because they want to make sure they can communicate with you with a human being, not a robot, right? You're a human being. You want to make sure that you culturally fit into the team. Okay. They may ask you questions about I have a few questions right now on my second monitor that our students from previous classes brought to me, right? For instance, they might like if you've been working in testing industry for a while, they might ask you, how did you get into the testing, and what do you like about being a tester? A lot of people get caught off guard because they never thought about this. Like, I mean, I got in testing by accident, right? But what do I like about testing? You have to be prepared for such questions, right? Or like, what are the top 3 skills in resume that you feel the strongest about? And what are 3 that you feel the least confident in? That's a great question. Everybody can talk about their, about the strong sides. They can leverage themselves. They can praise themselves. They have so much pride in themselves because everybody loves what they do the best, but nobody wants to talk about their weak parts. And that's exactly what people want to hear about you. What is actually, you are bad at, and what are you going to do about this, right? And this is very, very important, how to answer to those questions. And a lot of people get like, oh my God, I don't know what to answer. You can always turn the negative things into positive things. And let me give you an example. I'll give you one of the examples because we're limited on time. but for instance, you can say my 3 strongest skills, or like kind of say my one of the strongest skills is communication, right? Whenever I feel there's a problem, I know how to find key people, how to organize the teams to solve the problem. Communication is my strongest skill. However, probably I would say something I'm not very confident in is my perfectionism. And these are interesting. What a perfectionism sounds like a good thing. So when you are a perfectionist, means you always try to do work the best you can. However, in a software development, it could be also a negative thing, which played for me a couple times, a negative feedback. For instance, I was working the project, which is supposed to be delivered on time, let's say on June 1st. And because of my perfectionism, I try to do it the best I can, right, with the best quality I can. I was missing by the week. And again, it's not because I didn't want to deliver this, it's because I want to make the best job I can. So what it means, I have to learn how to cut corners and give up some risks, right, to achieve the project on time. So I'm trying to self-discipline myself and try to analyze what I do and pick up the most important crucial points of my job in order to deliver on time and just give up my perfectionism. Boom, right? You said about negative thing, but it sounds like a positive thing. That's what you want to think about those things ahead of time. Very, very important. Again, if you're gonna go through every aspect I talked during today's session, I guarantee you will be on top 10% of people in the industry.